Residents across the United States have reported strange noises, which are described as loud booms and are able to rattle buildings. What's odd about this phenomenon is that it's not new. In fact, people in the United States and other parts of the world have reported these noises for hundreds of years, and although scientists and researchers have conducted a variety of tests, we are still no closer to understanding what these noises are and where they're coming from. Residents have put forward a variety of different theories, ranging from jets, military equipment, earthquakes, UFOs and sky phenomena, but due to them being reported for hundreds of years, it rules out some of these suggestions. These skyquakes are described by those who have heard them as being a loud boom, with the witnesses always mentioning that the noise is definitely coming from the sky, once again ruling out the possibility of it being a heavy machinery, which was a suggestion that was put forward a while back. Some of the areas that these noises have been heard include the United States, the United Kingdom, Canada, Iran, Australia, Italy and various other countries. One of the problems with determining where these noises is coming from is that the reports are inconsistent. For example, some have reported that these noises only happen offshore, while residents in the United States have reported that they're happening above their houses, and in some cases are able to break windows, while people in Canada have said that the mysterious booms happen most frequently at night. These different testimonies have made it hard to track down an official answer for what's happening. Writer James Cooper said the following about the noises. It's a sound resembling the explosion of a heavy piece of artillery that can be accounted for by none of the known laws of nature. The report is deep, hollow, distant and imposing. The lake seems to be speaking to the surrounding hills, which send back the echoes of its voice in accurate reply. Teams of scientists have said the most likely answer is that these noises are created by earthquakes, raging storms or secret military exercises that the public is not aware of. However, they've admitted that they don't have a concrete answer of what's happening. Also, some of these explanations don't make sense. For example, why would the military carry out these tests over crowded areas, especially considering that there's various locations where they could carry out these experiments without being seen or heard. A team of seismologists from the University of North Carolina have recently published some theories about what could be causing the noises. They said the following. We wanted to go through local news articles, create a catalogue of instances of the noises, and then try to verify them with actual seismoacoustic data. Out of the data they collected, they discovered that 2 of the sensors had picked up some unusual readings, and this was near Cape Fear and Carolina Beach. Oddly enough though, some of this data just caused more confusion, as some of the skyquakes caused the ground to shake, but the scientists couldn't find any earthquake records that coincided with the event, meaning that something was causing the ground to shake, and it definitely wasn't an earthquake or any other naturally occurring event. The researchers continued with the following. Generally speaking, we believe this is an atmospheric phenomenon. We don't think it's coming from seismic activity. We're assuming it's propagating through the atmosphere rather than the ground. Presumably these are not all the same thing producing the booming sounds. The United States Geological Survey recently came forward and said the following on their website. Reports of unidentified booms have emerged from different places around the world for hundreds of years, and although many of the boom stories remain a mystery, others have been explained. Most of the booms that people hear or experience are the result of human activity, such as an explosion, a large vehicle going by, nearby construction or sometimes a sonic boom. But there have been many reports of booms that cannot be explained by man-made sources. Some of those booms are associated with a variety of interesting natural phenomena, including earthquakes. In the United States, most reports of mysterious booms come from the northeast and along the east coast, but there have also been observations along the west coast. Those along the east coast have not been directly studied and explained, but we can deduce from observations and measurements in the west coast locations that at least some of the East Coast booms are associated with very small earthquakes. Small shallow earthquakes sometimes produce rumbling sounds, or booms that can be heard by people who are close by. High frequency vibrations from this shallow earthquake generate the booming sound. When earthquakes are deeper, those vibrations never reach the surface. Sometimes the earthquakes create booming sounds even when no vibrations are felt. Of course, most booming sounds that people hear are not caused by earthquakes. Some other common and not so common natural causes are lightning, storms and tsunami waves, meteors and sand dunes. Man-made causes include sonic booms, explosions and construction. Data has shown us that there's been an increase in these reports, with researchers noting that the majority of these can't be explained by things like earthquakes or sonic booms. This year, residents in England have reported a swarm of these noises, and these happened in various places across the country, saying that they could be heard making a deep rumbling sound and ending after several seconds, leaving residents baffled as to where the strange noises came from. Data has shown us that the noises last from 1 to 10 seconds. Another idea that was suggested was that these noises were being created by meteors producing a sonic boom. But once again, if this was the case, the event would likely be recorded and known by space agencies. Although the United States Geological Survey said that most of these can be explained as natural phenomena, when they do eventually get investigated, the large majority of them remain a mystery. According to author Captain Edward J. Ruppelt, there were 3 major incidents in which the Air Force encountered mysterious aircrafts that forced them to reconsider their stance on the existence of extraterrestrial intervention and actions necessary for them to take on in their response to such events. One of these major incidents is referred to by Air Force intelligence officers as the Gorman dogfight. Described in the event, 25-year-old pilot George F. Gorman, already an experienced veteran fighter pilot for World War II, began his journey in a cross-country flight with several other National Guard pilots, and this was on the 1st of October back in 1948. As George flew over the city of Fargo in the state of North Dakota, it was around 8:30 p.m. that the National Guard pilots that were accompanying Gorman in his cross-country flight landed at the Fargo Hector International Airport to rest and refuel. Feeling competitive, George Gorman continued with his flight, believing that he could take a significant advantage of several additional hours of night flying, as the flight conditions were cloudless and the weather was optimal. It was around 9 p.m. that Gorman passed over a stadium and noticed a small Piper Club airplane flying roughly 500 feet directly below him. Worried about a possible collision, George Gorman radioed the nearby airport. Oddly enough, the tower replied that it only had radio data from 2 airplanes, George's and a Piper Cub airplane 500 several feet below his position. When he inquired as to the strange light he could see flying off to the west, the radio tower confirmed that there was no such readings, and that no other aircraft was in the area specified. The radio tower then contacted the nearby Piper Cub pilot to get a confirmation on the sighting, to which the pilot said they could also see a glowing light off to the west, matching similar descriptions to George Gorman's sighting. After several more minutes, Gorman grew increasingly curious as to the origins of the light, as he realized it was impossible to make out any kind of outlines. According to Gordon, there was no evidence of an outline of an airplane's wings, and the pilot claimed that they could not see any discerning physical factors to the nearby craft, which stood in stark contrast compared to the clearly visible outline of the Piper Club airplane. At approximately 9:10, George Gorman radioed to the nearby tower that he would pursue the unidentified aircraft to determine its possible origins. Despite flying a P-51 Mustang, throttled to full power at 400 miles per hour, George Gorman was quickly made aware of the fact that the unidentified object was capable of flight speeds that far exceeded his aircraft. Realizing that it would not be possible to catch the craft in a straight flight path, George attempted to cut off the craft in tight turns. When George got close enough to the light, he made a dramatic right turn and flew at the object in a head-on collision at a height of over 5,000 feet, claiming to have missed the object as it ascended 500 feet and rose above his craft. It was during this near miss that George got an accurate look at the craft and described it to have been the following: simply a ball of light approximately 6 to 8 inches in diameter. After temporarily losing sight of this object, George Gorman noted that the light made a sudden 180-degree turn and was flying directly at him. Before the two aircrafts could collide, the ball of light made a direct vertical climb and ascended several thousand feet. Trying to match the speed and angle of the craft, George also pitched his Mustang into a vertical climb, but almost blacked out and went unconscious from the sudden G-forces. At around 14,000 feet, the P-51 Mustang stalled, as the airfoil wrapped around the plane's wings. Despite climbing almost 10,000 feet at full throttle, the unidentified object continued its vertical ascent for another 2,000 feet. With his curiosity getting the better of him, Gordon made 2 attempts at getting close to the light at full throttle, and by making sharp turns at G-forces that most inexperienced pilots would have had a tremendous difficulty pulling off. But both times the unidentified ball of light would evade his movements, with faster reaction speeds, and the ability to endure higher rates of G-forces than George Gorman, saying that they were inhuman. After the last attempt made by Gorman to approach the craft, the light passed over the Fargo-Hector International Airport, providing the air traffic controller, a man by the name of L.D. Jensen, an opportunity to catch sight of the strange ball of light. With the aid of binoculars, L.D. Jensen confirmed the sightings made by George Gorman and the Piper Cub pilot, and stated that it was impossible to make out any physical shapes or outlines, but could clearly witness the ball of light rapidly moving and outmaneuvering Gorman's P-51 Mustang. As the objects continued to fly past the airport, George Gorman continued his chase and followed the unidentified flying object, saying he followed it for another 25 miles, moving southwest of Fargo at speeds exceeding 450 miles per hour. Ascending to 14,000 feet, Gorman followed the ball of lights that he believed to have been at approximately 11,000 feet, and when he believed he was flying over the object, he made a nosedive towards the craft. It was at this moment that the object made an incredible vertical climb to such a height that the object passed out of visual range. It was at this time, at around 9:27 p.m, that veteran World War II fighter pilot George Gorman called off the chase and flew back to Hector Airport to provide a report on his sighting and the craft's strange abilities. Gorman would later provide the following statement: "I am convinced that there was a definite thought behind its maneuvers. I am further convinced that the object was governed by the laws of inertia, because its acceleration was rapid but not immediate, and although it was able to turn at fast speeds, it still followed a natural curve. When I attempted to turn with the object, I blacked out temporarily, due to excessive speeds. I am in fairly good physical condition, and I do not believe that there are many, if any, pilots who could withstand the turn and speed affected by the object, and remain conscious. The object was not only able to outturn and outspeed my aircraft, but was able to attain a far steeper climb, and was able to maintain a consistent rate of climb far in excess of my aircraft." After investigations were carried out by officials and Project Bluebird, it was announced that George Gorman, an experienced and highly respected pilot, encountered a balloon, much to the dismay of George and fellow pilots and researchers. Strange discoveries are made all the time by everyday people. Some of these are found in old houses, barns and construction sites, and sometimes they can leave those who found them with more questions than answers. This is exactly what happened to one heating, ventilation and air conditioning engineer who was checking out an old property. One man's wife posted this photograph to social media and said that her husband is a heating, ventilation and air conditioning engineer, and during one of his workdays he was asked to check out an old attic. The owners told him that the property used to be a church and that it had been converted into a house. While in the attic, the man then came across a coffin. When the man questioned what was inside the coffin, they told him not to worry about it and said that it's been there since the place was a church. Oddly enough, the coffin was nailed shut, and the man found it strange how it hadn't been moved from the attic. No more information was provided by the wife, leaving many people who saw the post wanting answers for what was inside. The fact that the building used to be a church didn't go down well with many people, and theories started to be put forward for what was inside. One of the issues is we don't know how old the converted church is, and this could just be an empty coffin with nails in it, but others suggested more sinister ideas, and that someone may be inside the coffin, and that it was forgotten about and left in the attic undisturbed. Some users said they would call the cops and get them to investigate the area to see if any other strange things could be found, while others carried on from this and said that these coffins may be spread throughout the whole property. However, others went down another route and said that something haunted might be inside, and that it's been nailed shut so that it has no chance of getting out. It's not uncommon for mysterious items to be dropped off at churches. In fact, various stories have been told about people leaving behind allegedly haunted items at churches, in the hopes of passing the cursed item onto someone else. Some users who saw the image said this is the most likely answer, as it's unlikely that the previous owners of the church would leave this in their attic. As of right now, no more information has been provided about the photograph. Given the fact that no one knows the true nature of how a curse can occur, it's been a tale often fraught with mystery as much as terror. Though the ways an individual can be cursed can vary depending on culture, one thought that's always been the same is the ownership of an object and what that does to its owner. Often referenced throughout history of cursed objects, of whom have brought nothing but horror to its new home. This seems to be a retelling of these same themes to this day in modern tales of cursed objects that still find themselves in the ownerships of families filled with misfortune. Another mysterious find that was made in an attic is this one. The family in question was said to have purchased the doll for their daughter one Christmas. At the time, the doll was loved by the young girl, but as with most toys, the girl stopped playing with it, and so it was placed in the attic. When the daughter was old enough to move out, she asked her parents about the doll, and if they still had it, and they said that they remembered placing it in the attic. After this, they all decided that because the daughter is moving out, it would be a good time to clean out the attic to see what else was up there. The girl remembered that when it was put in the attic it was in good condition and didn't have any marks on it. She, along with the family, were looking forward to seeing the old doll, as they thought it would bring back happy memories. However, when taking the doll out the box, the family made an eerie discovery. The once pretty doll now looked old and wrinkled. In fact, the family members described the doll as looking aged, and that it even looked like it had been mummified, describing the doll's face as being skin-like, and said that it seemed to have wrinkles running across its entire face. Not surprisingly, the family soon got rid of the doll, as it began to freak them out. Some who've seen the photographs have put forward the idea of what happened. One online user said that this doll could be haunted, and that after being left in the attic it began to take on a life of its own. Others suggested that because the doll was left for so long it began to crack and became discolored. One thing the family couldn't explain is how the doll seemed to have aged. Others who went with the paranormal said that these dolls can be vessels for entities. As of today, the eerie aging doll seems to have vanished. Another mysterious discovery is this one. This eerie looking doll was discovered laying next to a tree in Singapore, and it's reported if you take the blindfold off the doll you get possessed, causing many of the locals to stay clear of it, with them walking past it and refusing to make eye contact. It's said the owner left it here on purpose after experiencing the paranormal, and after investigations were carried out, it was reported that they covered up the eyes because during the night they allegedly moved. According to locals, the blindfold has the word Bishmala written on it, which is an Arabic phrase meaning in the name of God. The owner reported that the doll would move on its own and would talk throughout the night. Interestingly, the original story details that the only way to get rid of it and to make sure it doesn't come back is to cover its eyesight and ensure that it's passed on to someone else. When this cycle is continued, the curse will pass on to the next person. So what do you make of this mysterious photo, and what do you think is inside? Be sure to leave your questions and answers in the comment section below, and help us to grow this community while working to solve these unexplained mysteries. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more videos.